Exhales sharply. AI was supposed to make life cheaper, faster work, lower prices, less waste. Instead, it is helping make your bills fatter in all sorts of sneaky little ways. Your power bill, your software bill, your ad costs if you run a business, even your grocery bill if a platform decides your pain tolerance looks healthy. Curious, stay with me, because the strange part is not that AI costs money. Of course it costs money. The strange part is that the bill keeps rolling downhill until it lands on ordinary people.
Hello, my name is Gene. I'm building a club to help people navigate our AI cultural revolution. It is Guildrim. We will master the new AI tools, support people displaced by the machine, and lead them into the cybernetic future. Our topic today is how AI is making everything more expensive. Let's begin. Exhales sharply. The first trick in this story is the promise itself. People heard that AI would remove labor, speed up services, and make things cheaper. That sounds nice. It also sounds like something said by a man in a blazer standing next to a slide deck with too many rounded corners. The reality is plainer. AI is expensive to build. It needs chips, data centers, cooling systems, land, water, transmission lines, and absurd amounts of electricity. Before the machine can save a dollar, somebody has to spend mountains of dollars to create the machine in the first place. That matters because we are living in the build out phase. This is the phase where firms pour cash into hardware, energy, and infrastructure, while telling the public a beautiful story about abundance. It is like opening a restaurant by first setting half the city on fire to preheat the oven. So when people ask why AI seems inflationary instead of cheap, the answer begins here. We are not yet enjoying some mature world of stable, low cost automation. We are paying for a giant industrial expansion wrapped in the language of convenience. The International Energy Agency projects that global electricity use by data centers will roughly double to around 945 terawatt hours by 2030, with AI as the main driver of that growth. That is your first clue that the cheap AI future arrived with a utility meter attached. Once you see AI as infrastructure, the next part becomes obvious. Data centers do not float in the heavens like pure thought. They sit on real grids. They need real power. And the grid has to be expanded, reinforced, and protected to keep up. That means utilities are spending more, grid operators are sounding alarms, regulators are scrambling, companies are proposing new transmission, new substations, new generation, and all the rest of the industrial plumbing that polite people forget exists until the lights flicker. So, forscored plong, now comes the part that matters for normal life. Those costs do not vanish into the mist. They tend to find their way into bills, maybe through higher rates, maybe through charges tied to capacity and infrastructure, maybe through long run pressure on local energy markets. The method changes. The result feels familiar. This is why AI can raise household costs even if you never touch a chatbot. The machine still drinks from the same system that powers your house, your office, your grocery store, and your town. Ryers reported that the largest U.S. utilities are ramping up spending to meet surging demand from data centers and are fielding questions about rising power bills. Ryers also reported sharp increases in PJM auction prices tied to growing data center demand, turning that region into a test case for how AI power demand can hit homes and businesses. The bill, as always, has a remarkable instinct for finding the least glamorous person in the room. Exhales sharply. Then there is software, the place where this story turns from industrial to personal. In the old days, a company sold you software and overcharged you in the usual, ancient manner. Now it sells you software with AI features and overcharges you with futuristic enthusiasm. That is the bundle game. AI gets folded into office tools, chat platforms, design suites, and business software. Sometimes the feature is useful. Sometimes it is a button nobody asked for that now sits in the corner like an intern who keeps talking. Either way, the price tends to move upward. This matters because software, is not some distant corporate expense anymore. It hits freelancers, schools, creators, churches, local shops, and families. The monthly stack of digital subscriptions already looks like a little tax code. AI is helping make that stack taller. Salesforce announced 2025 pricing updates that raised prices for some editions while expanding AI-related features and changing Slack plans to include more native AI access. Slack's own documentation says the pricing changes support advanced AI features and a new Enterprise Plus plan. That is the pattern in miniature. Firms spend heavily on AI, then look for a way to recover the cost. One of the cleanest ways is to staple AI powered onto existing products and charge more. So when a person says, "Why does everything online suddenly cost more?" the answer is often simple. The chatbot did not descend from heaven with free gifts. It arrived with a finance department. Now take that software squeeze and move it into small business. This is where the story gets painfully ordinary. A bakery, a tutoring service, a print shop, a plumber, a freelance designer. None of these people are trying to conquer the cosmos. They are trying to survive a Tuesday without 3 new invoices and a nervous stomach. Yet they now face a rising pile of costs tied to this AI boom: more expensive software, more expensive cloud tools, pressure to adopt AI features so they do not look outdated, rising electricity costs in some regions, more expensive digital ads, more expensive security tools because scams are multiplying. A big firm can spread these costs around. A small firm usually cannot. It either absorbs the hit, cuts quality, cuts labor, or raises prices. Most do some mix of all four. This is one reason AI can make life more expensive without directly touching the final product. If the local business selling you bread, repairs, lessons, or design work has higher overhead because the whole digital ecosystem got pricier, those costs drift into the prices you see. People often picture inflation as one giant dramatic event. Sometimes it is. Often it looks smaller and pettier. A few dollars here, a higher subscription there, a service fee nobody can explain, a rate increase that arrives smiling, death by 12 tasteful emails. This section matters because it reminds viewers that AI is not only changing giant tech firms, it is changing the cost structure of normal commerce. And when normal commerce gets squeezed, ordinary prices stop being normal. Exhales sharply. Then we get to pricing itself, which is where the machine becomes almost rude. AI gives firms more power to test prices, personalize offers, and study what people are likely to tolerate. In plain English, it helps companies figure out how much pain they can inflict before you close the tab. This does not mean every company is running a sinister experiment in a candlelit basement. It means the tools now exist to vary prices faster, at greater scale, and with more data than before. That changes the balance of power between buyer and seller. A clean example came from grocery delivery. Consumer Reports found that some Instacart users saw different prices for the same items through AI-enabled price experiments. Later, Consumer Reports reported that Instacart ended those experiments after criticism, and the Washington Post reported the program had been halted after public backlash. That matters because groceries are not a luxury. They are where abstract systems become painfully concrete. If AI is helping companies adjust prices person by person or test price sensitivity at scale, then the machine is not only organizing information, it is reaching into the act of buying itself. And this is where the public mood turns sour. People can accept that firms want profit. What they hate is the feeling that prices have become clever, too adaptive, too slippery, like haggling with a casino run by statisticians. The machine was supposed to be your helpful assistant. Instead, in some corners of the economy, it has become a very polite pickpocket. Exhales now widen the frame from shopping to the web itself. AI companies scrape vast amounts of online content. Meanwhile, publishers, forums, creators, and site owners still pay for hosting, moderation, security, writers, editors, and the rest of the unglamorous labor that keeps the internet from collapsing into a swamp. The old web model was messy, but it had a rough exchange. Search engines indexed your site, then sent traffic back. With AI, that bargain gets shakier. Bots can consume content at large scale while sending less value back to the people who made it. Cloudflare reported that crawler traffic rose from May 2024 to May 2025, with GPT-bot up 305% in raw requests. Cloudflare also moved to block AI crawlers by default and push a permission-based model, arguing that site owners should have more control and potential compensation when AI systems scrape their work. That sounds technical, but the economic effect is simple. If websites lose traffic while still carrying the cost of making content, they have to respond somehow. More ads, more paywalls, more licensing deals, more junk cluttering the page. Less generosity, less openness, more little toll booths. So even people who never use AI directly may still pay for it through a worse internet. The web gets more expensive to run, more defensive, and less pleasant to browse. A marvelous civilizational achievement. We built a global library and then taught robots to eat the shelves. There is also the ad market, one of the least romantic but most powerful parts of modern pricing. Businesses spend money to be found. When the cost of being found rises, the cost of selling rises. When the cost of selling rises, prices often rise too. AI is changing search, recommendations, and online discovery. That pushes firms into new ad battles. They have to learn new systems, buy into new formats, and fight for attention in a market that is growing more automated and more crowded at the same time. This is not cheap, and it does not stay confined to marketing departments. Reuters reported that spending on AI-driven search advertising in the United States is expected to surge to nearly $26 billion by 2029, from a little over $1 billion in 2025. That is a startling increase, and it tells you where the market thinks this is going. A normal viewer might ask why this matters for the price of a shirt, a cleaning service, or a meal kit. The answer is that products do not only carry production costs, they carry customer acquisition costs too. If businesses must spend more money to get noticed in an AI-shaped market, they often recover that cost through higher prices. So the next time a basic product seems weirdly expensive, remember that part of what you may be buying is the cost of a company screaming into a louder digital bazaar. The bazaar got smarter. It also got pricier. A classic modern bargain. The final layer is fraud, defense, and the slow household squeeze. AI makes scams cheaper to produce and easier to personalize. Fake voices, fake invoices, fake customer service, fake job listings, fake urgency. The scammer's toolkit now comes with better grammar and a nicer microphone. Businesses react the only way they can. More monitoring, more verification, more fraud tools, more compliance costs, more staff time spent checking whether a thing is real. None of that is free. Those costs land in fees, delays, subscriptions, insurance, and higher prices. The FBI's 2024 Internet Crime Report said reported losses exceeded $16 billion, up 33% from 2023. The FTC has warned that voice cloning makes scams more believable, especially when criminals impersonate family members, bosses, or trusted figures. Now stack that on top of the rest of the video. Higher energy costs, higher software costs, pricier ads, smarter pricing tricks, a web economy under pressure. Rising fraud defense. None of these has to bankrupt a family on its own. Together they create a kind of silent tax. That is the real point. AI is not making everything more expensive in one theatrical gesture. It is doing it through many channels at once, each small enough to sound manageable, all large enough together to change daily life. That is how people get nickeled and dimed in the cybernetic age. Not by one iron fist, by 1,000 pleasant little prompts, asking whether you would like to upgrade. So the story is not that AI does nothing useful, it plainly does useful things. The story is that people heard automation and assumed lower prices would arrive automatically. Real economies are messier than that. Giant new systems create giant new appetites. They consume energy, capital, infrastructure, trust, and content. Then the cost spreads. It spreads into utilities, into software, into ad markets, into groceries, into fraud defense, into the internet itself. And because ordinary people, creators, and small businesses have the least room to absorb extra costs, they feel the pressure first. That is why this is more than a tech story. It is a cost of living story. It is a cultural story. When life gets pricier, people have less room for beauty, leisure, generosity, local clubs, experiments, and art. The machine changes what people can afford to build together. That is the part worth noticing. If we are going to live with these tools, we should learn where the money is going before we applaud every new machine, like villagers admiring a tax collector in a polished helmet. Chuxel, like the video, comment below, and subscribe to the channel, where we help creatives build community in the age of AI. And until next time, remember, a grand world awaits.